Next, on this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
Audio, I think we all believe, and your listeners probably believe since they're listening, is just an amazing medium and is super valuable. But audio is actually the hardest kind of medium to really market, given the internet's so visual. So if you look at social media, like your Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, et cetera, if you're scanning through your feeds, it's the visual part that really entices. We basically help audio producers get out on social media, which is one of the biggest traffic drivers on the internet. If you're a podcaster and you're not out there on social media with your audio, you're not really presenting what your value prop is, given your podcast is audio.
So one day I'm caddying for the Dalai Lama and I say, "Hey, Lama, how about a little something, for the effort?" And he says, "There won't be any money, but one day I will introduce you to the nice guys on business." So I got that going for me, which is nice. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by Turnkey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
Content creators, this is all for you today. Podcasters, publishers, and anyone that wants cool ways to refresh, recycle, recast their content. Check out today's episode. So today, Nice Guys community, I am not just an interviewer. I am a user of this dynamic app, which actually creates professional video posts with custom pics with a way cool digital wave squiggly thingy on the screen. I have no idea what the hell I'm even talking about when it comes to tech stuff. So that's why I have these guys here today. The best part about this app is that it has a feature that sends me an email directly to my inbox with the finished product. So if you're looking for a way to generate unique content branded for you, sent to you, it's called the no effort approach to promotion, my favorite way. Check out today's Nice Guys episode as we dig deeper into what, why, and how with Headliner founders Neil Mody, I think I got that right, Neil Mody, and Oliver Wellington. We are going to talk podcasting, promotion, and welcome, guys, to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
And you did get it right. We're glad to be here. Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
You guys are welcome. And Neil, just so everybody knows your voice, Neil, can you say hi so everybody knows who you are when you first start talking? Go ahead, Neil.
Hi, all.
Okay, that is Neil. And Oliver, please share your voice because you said, although you go second, you're smarter than Neil. Is that correct?
No, I actually didn't say that. But yeah, this is my voice. So it is now, we sound the same. It's going to be tough.
Well, maybe for the first couple of questions, you can say, "Hey, this is Neil speaking," or "Hey, this is Oliver speaking." That's probably a good way to tune in for our Nice Guy community. It's so rare that we actually have two people that we're interviewing. I thought maybe it's because people are so repelled by me that they just don't ever want to come on at two at a time. But I see this is a very good partnership that you guys have.
You're cutting yourself too short, but yeah, Oliver and I have worked together for two companies now, so over a decade. Wow. So we're attached at the hip.
So
at this point.
What's interesting is, so my partner, Strickland, who co-hosts the Friday shows with me, we do two interviews and one just Strick and I shooting the shit and talking about business and other fun stuff about our personal lives. We both have what we would call both our zone of excellence and our zone of genius. And Strickland's zone of excellence, and probably even gravitating towards a zone of genius, are systems and creating great processes and spreadsheets. And I suck at that stuff. And I tend to find that my zone of genius or zone of excellence, maybe gravitating towards my zone of genius, is working in the relationship and sales space. So why don't you first share where you guys kind of fit in with each other, and then we'll talk a little bit about Headliner and some of your successes that you've had.
Well, I will. This is Oliver speaking. I will say that most people that know Neil and I think it's funny that we work together because we're very different. I'll try to explain myself by actually describing Neil. And so you can imagine the opposite.
Okay.
Neil is very technical, very analytical, very logical. He's very patient. And I am kind of not those things as much. And so, I don't know if you wanted to say our zones of excellence. I don't know if I really think about things in that same way, but in general, I kind of, work a lot with our community building, working with users. At our last company, we work with bloggers. I kind of led the community outreach and community building there. And then, we're a startup, so we juggle a lot of the other kind of less exciting tasks that a startup has too. But Neil and I actually kind of are a little bit of a two-headed monster when it comes to different projects. We'll work on, all types of aspects of projects together.
So Oliver, would you consider yourself, of the two of you, would you consider yourself the more client-facing side of the business? And
you would think that, but no.
Okay. So wait a second. So Neil is the tech expert and he's the client-facing side. So I'm trying to figure out what the sandwich is there.
Yeah. So if you think about it, right, like we cover, we're working with larger companies, and then we also work with just a huge array of podcasters, right? So if you think about the community of, your podcaster who's just starting out and wants to get in and try out these new tools, like that's kind of what I work with. Neil works with, he's the background in technology, but also does the more B2B sales stuff at the higher levels too.
Okay. Got it.
I'm wearing a tie-dye t-shirt right now, for example.
I saw that and I appreciate and respect that. I probably for most of I'm 55. So for most of my teenage years and even beyond, if I look in my closet, I don't know if I have any of my tie-dye shirts. I think my first ex-wife decided that she was going to throw them all away. So how about you, Neil? Tell me a little bit about where, either describe Oliver to me or describe yourself to me, either way.
Totally. Well, I think Oliver, that was a roundabout way to say, I think his center of excellence is his creative juices and specifically community building. So I think those two aspects are like really big, both in our last company and this one. So this is just some background. We were one of the biggest content recommendation companies on the internet. It was called Enrelate. So if you've ever read an article and at the bottom there's links of what else to read, we were one of the biggest providers of that, and our biggest market was in the blogosphere. So if you're a blogger circa 2009, 2010, 2011, there's a pretty good chance you used our software. We were on over like 100,000 sites and so on. And Oliver was responsible for really growing that community, building it, serving it, working with them to really refine our product. And then I guess, for myself, I have a very technical background. And so I'd say I really like to think hard and deep and long about problems and problem solving different types of things. So that's probably mine if I had to come up with one.
So let me ask Oliver, you a question, just because I know that many of the times some of the challenges that our podcasting clients have as we are talking to those that are in our Turnkey podcast community, because as I said, I'm going to really work hard at trying to wear a couple of different hats here. I want to wear the hat of as a podcast producer and an owner of a production company, but I also want to talk to the entrepreneurial base that's out there. But let's just talk to the podcasters for a quick second, because it sounds like you've had a considerable amount of success in this space. And so let me direct this to Oliver for just a moment. What do you think is the biggest hurdle that people have to get over in order to start building community? Because that's one of the biggest challenges. We talk about the big three in podcasting. It's how do you build community, how do you grow influence, and how do you make money? And while money and influence are important, it's really challenging to do any of those things without a community. So can you share maybe some of the mistakes or some of the things that you see that people should be leaning into when it comes to building community?
I mean, I think we've always taken a very kind of basic approach to this, and it works. And that's number one, listen to people's feedback. 2, enact that feedback. And then 3, let them know about it. And that's kind of the cycle we follow, right? So you release something thinking people will use it some way. They might use it the way you intended. They might not. And then make sure when they tell you, hey, I wish it did this, that if you can do that for them and enough people ask for it, that you make those changes. And then over time, you kind of build the product that people really want, and it'll somewhat naturally get spread around. Because I mean, the best way people hear about us is through word of mouth. And so that's kind of what we've totally focused on, is just getting a great product out to people and continually improving it. Like we update the product every week, and we have for years, and that's like what we're going to keep doing it. Like this isn't going to change.
Oh yeah, you iterations and keep tweaking it and making it better. Absolutely, I 100% agree with that. So Neil, let me ask you a question from a developer's perspective or from a technical perspective. It's easy to be able to say, hey, we're going to take the feedback of our community and listen to it and actually create the product that's based upon the feedback that we get. But I'm sure, just like I will after we're done with this interview, I want to share, some of and I'll share some of it while I'm on the show, but the show is a shorter format than the time that we have for the interview. It's hard sometimes because there's so many community members talking so many different things. Somebody might say they like black, but somebody might say, no, green is the way to go. So how do you know what to listen to and what not to listen to as somebody that's developing this?
It's not an easy task by any means, but I think what you try to do is get to the root of it, right? So someone's preferring black, someone's preferring white. Like I think it comes down to, okay, people want some choice and selection here, and what you try to step back from is like, if we do this, what does that mean for our product or service in 6 months or 12 months from now? And I'll give you an example right back. I mean, for the listeners listening to this, Doug, when we first connected here, he spent a minute or two trying to adjust the volume for the best audio for this recording. And that's from feedback that you got from your listeners saying, hey, the audio wasn't great and so on. And so I think, that's just a small kind of example of you doing exactly what we try to do here in the company, which is really understand that community building, to your point about these three things, starts with being a part of the community as well. Right, and in order to be a part of the community, you need to be, there's a give and take at all times. And that kind of manifests itself into the product, hopefully.
I love that. And I love the fact that you used an example that I try to do all the time, because I'm thinking as a listener myself, when I have somebody on my show and I know that we're trying to tweak, and there's only so much that you can get out of it's challenging. And I think I explained some of the challenges when you have two people that are on the same side of the microphone. It's a little challenging because both of you want to be able to face the mic, but it's too hard to get too close so that you can't get the optimum sound all the time. So we do our best in post-production. That's my other client who is my team to get them to understand, well, why is it that you couldn't get an A+ quality out of the sound? And, you do the best you can, and then you have your team hopefully, make up the rest. So I want to chat just a little bit just about the product itself, because I think this is obviously it's real important for those that are in our content creator section of our listenership. For those that are content creating, you spend a lot of time focused on podcasters. Is your background in podcasting, or is that just an area where that this could have a home run because of the popularity of podcasting right now?
Our background has always been content. And Oliver talked about it a little bit before. Our previous company was big in the blogosphere. And so I've always been enamored with the idea of being able to share ideas. And blogging really made that possible about 10 years ago. And so we built a company around amplifying that and helping people get to more content. And then after we sold that company and kind of decided what we were going to do next, we saw podcasting as this new emergent medium. Actually, it wasn't emergent. It's been around for a while, but it was picking up some steam. And a lot of the bloggers we had worked with were moving into podcasting or additionally doing podcasting. And we just thought there was a lot of value in the ecosystem, and it just wasn't coming out easily. And so that got us on this journey to eventually build Headliner, which really is just a kind of a new manifestation of the same idea, which is helping people get content out into the world and put it in front of people where they are.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the process that somebody goes through, and I can explain maybe my process that I go through if you're listening and you're a podcaster, how this actually comes together, and a lot of it is so easy. And then can you guys come back through and fill in the blanks or what I'm not using it for? Maybe share with my community what you think would be the best advantage for somebody that is in either podcasting or any level of content creation, whether you're a blogger that creates video posts, or you're somebody that creates audio. And so maybe just you can come back and fill in the blanks. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Sounds good.
So here's how I use it, just so everybody knows. So I'll do a podcast episode. When the episode is finished, I want a way to promote, hey, here's who was just on the show. Stay tuned for the message or for the episode that's coming out. So I'll take all of the audio content, even before it's edited. I'll throw it into Headliner. Headliner will pick out a series of different sections. How it does it, what magical elves are behind the scenes, I have no idea. It's probably a lot of AI stuff going on. I'm sure it is. And then it will create a series of different blocks of audio. That audio transfers into a form where, if I've loaded in my cover art or a specific picture or any any unique content, it will meld the audio and the transcription and the picture into one, and then it will just send to my inbox, whether I do it daily, episodically, or weekly, or a summary. I don't really know how many different options that I have there, but it will send me an email with that created piece of content that I can either have a choice of either using it exactly as it is, which most of the time I will because I'm lazy, or I can go in there and I can actually do some editing and tweaking of that post, and then I can take that post and place it as a video file onto social media. And that social media promo is a recycled, reused, or regenerated, or recasted, or whatever you want to say, piece of content that will promote this episode that is coming out. And a block of those repeated over and over and over and over again, whether it's unique to each one or I can use the same one over and over again, will generate some buzz about this particular episode, whether it's coming out or it's already out there on the street. And I think it is an amazing piece of technology that I just had no idea was within my grasp, because I thought, geez, I don't know how to do any of these components, but you guys put it together so seamlessly. So aside from that, is that what the intended use of this particular app is for?
Yeah, I mean, that's the automation wizard that we have built in, and that's exactly what it is, and you described it perfectly. The only other, I would also mention, Headliner itself has other features too. So outside of automation, you can also create one-off audiograms or videos too. And those, you can upload video, images, GIFs. You can use the waveform animation, progress bars, and all that stuff. And then we also, if you do live video podcasting or even recorded video podcasting, however you want to do it, you can take that video and add captions and other kind of effects on top of it using Headliner as well.
Yeah, I saw in your blog, and I was just looking through this in the last couple of days since I knew the interview was coming. I was looking through your blog, and by the way, it's headliner.app. And then you can click on any of the tabs on the top, and one of the tabs is blog. I was looking at some of the ways that your content creators are using it. Like I'm looking at the latest one. I think it's Highlight 23. It's either two podcasters or two content creators. They actually wrote a blog post, and every few paragraphs they're throwing in a headliner feature, and it's really cool because it does use the combination of, I'm reading this, and I'm also getting a little bit more information because I'm now listening to this too. So it does hit people at a couple different senses, and I think it's a really effective tool for even bloggers that are out there to be able to create content, that is interesting and enticing for people to click on and read.
Yeah, this is Neil here. I think just taking a step back, like audio, I think we all believe, and your listeners probably believe, since they're listening, is just an amazing medium and is super valuable. But audio is actually the hardest kind of medium to really market, given the internet's so visual, right? So if you look at social media, like your Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, etc., if you're scanning through your feeds, it's the visual part that really entices. And so we basically help audio producers get out on social media, which is one of the biggest traffic drivers on the internet. And so if you're a podcaster and you're not out there on social media with your audio, you're not really presenting what your value prop is, given your podcast is audio.
Oh,
right?
So true. I love the way that you say that. So again, Turnkey Podcast community, the whole idea behind it is, if you're not using audio in your social promotion, you're really missing the whole reason why you're in the podcasting space to begin with.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people have an affinity for people's voices. Definitely not mine, but maybe yours, Doug, or a lot of the. It's the content and the audio that really brings people to appreciate a podcast, and we just gave them a way to promote it on social, kind of holding on to audio through video. Interestingly enough, so there's the two sides. The audio's there that really is what your product is, and then there's the visual side via video that allows it to really stand out and be in the feed and not get glossed over.
So maybe talk to those that are in the podcasting space and just look at it from their challenges perspective. Are there some challenges that you see as, I mean, it is such a noisy world right now of podcasting. I mean, I think it's something crazy, like 2,000 or 3,000 podcasts are started I don't even know the statistics. There's almost 1 million podcasts that are out there right now, but most of them haven't lasted more than 12 episodes. So what are some of the challenges you think that are facing the podcast industry today?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is, I think what you kind of touched on, is that it's really hard to stand out, right? So if you just put your show out there in a massive directory that a lot of people aren't going to sit and search for and get to your podcast, you're going to end up not being happy with the numbers. And so, what I'm happy about is, Headliner helps people get the word out in all different ways beyond just dropping it in a podcast directory. Yeah. And I think, to your question that Oliver answered earlier, I would add, there's two sides to any content creator's business. It's creating amazing content, but they need to be thinking about just as much is how to promote that content in a sea of content. If the build it and they'll come attitude does not work when you start out, and you really need to get the word out and push what your content is. Otherwise, no one's going to discover it.
So, Oliver, let me again ask you this question, because it sounds like you're the community building side of the business. How does this fit? How do you promote within the podcast community? I mean, obviously, you're going to go to industry, or I'm thinking you'd be going to industry events like Podcast Movement and Podfest and some of the other things that are out there and doing podcasts. Is there any magic bullet when it comes to growing your community through podcasting?
No, I mean, we haven't. I don't think there's like a magic bullet per se. It's just more about kind of slow and steady over time. If you listen to people and give them what they need, they start telling their friends, and then it just grows. And eventually, all of a sudden, your email list is 20,000 podcasters. It just kind of happens. So
right.
I don't think there's like a magic. I mean, part of it too is like we have to be true to who we are, right? Like we like, and what we like to do is this whole feedback loop of building software that people like and getting it out to them, and kind of, like when people send us nice emails, we put it in a Slack channel for the whole team to read. Mm-hmm. And that's just kind of who we are,
Right.
We've tried doing, like, for example, like people have said, you guys should do a Facebook group and all that kind of stuff. And we've tried it, but like at the end of the day, we're really like all about as much one-on-one interaction as we can do. We spend a lot of resources on customer support, and that's one of actually the main ways we try to help build communities, through great customer service.
So tell me a little bit just about some of the under the hood. What does it look like? How challenging is it to grow a software as a service type of company, and how does that work? I mean, because I'm really curious, because there are, like, I look at our podcast production business and I keep thinking, man, if I had a coder or somebody that knew how to actually put this into a different language, I could bottle this up, package it, and sell it as a system, because in our opinion, we have probably the most effective system for going from concept to launch, and we've created a whole course around it. But it's not the same thing as giving them the system, because now they still have to create the system on the back end. So just if we go under the hood for a second and talk about the challenges that you guys have in developing software as a service, what would you say your biggest challenge is?
Yeah, I mean, so given I'm the tech guy, this is Neil here. I'll take this one. I mean, I always the challenge is that the balance of all the things you want to create and prioritization, and finding really good talent, right? So we're lucky that most of the team has worked together for almost a decade from our past company and this one. And I would say, we shipped Headliner about 2 years ago. We started, I think, on launch, we probably were making, dozens of videos a day. Maybe a good day was 100 to 200, and now we're making over 10,000 videos a day. And so I would say the scaling has probably been the most technical challenging part of it, but also you just have to keep at it. I think people value really good, useful software, and back to that feedback loop. It's the balancing act of trying to figure out how to address most of the requests in the easiest way you can.
So from a business development perspective, where do you see yourselves going? You're building this one at a time, or you want to build this enterprise wide? What is a really, do you go to the big networks and say, okay, you have 50 shows on our net one, we'd like to sell you an enterprise of this, or how does that work for you?
Totally. So we basically broke our business into the freemium offering. So we have the free tier, which is super generous, maybe the most generous of anyone around that can do this. Before us, people were using Adobe software, video making software, which is kind of cost prohibitive for the independent podcaster. And so we have the free tier, and then we have a paid tier for kind of the more professional podcasts that really want to market and grow their show and are going to make a good number of videos a month and need some additional functionality. And so that's our kind of freemium offering. And then we have an enterprise plan that is really for the big organizations. So companies like SiriusXM and Entercom, big audio producing companies that are producing audio nonstop, or podcast hosts like Omni, Pinecast, Podcast.co. We probably work with over a dozen hosts in the podcast ecosystem that can basically integrate Headliner into their workflows so that all their users, whether it be the social media team at SiriusXM or the podcaster at that hosting company at Omni, can just make a Headliner video more seamlessly.
Right.
So those are the kind of three different tiers we have. And I'd say from a monetization perspective, we've actually gotten the bulk of our revenues is from the pro tier. And that, I think that's really showing how much people are taking podcasting as a profession / business, and that uptick of what that means for how you get out there in the world today and how Headliner helps you solve that.
What's interesting, as you were talking, I was thinking about some business ideas to work on something together. And the thing that I came up with is, geez, we've launched 100 shows. Why we haven't, through our production company, included an easy social media marketing tool like Headliner as a part of it. And as either as a reseller or as a value add for what we do, or I don't know, but there's definitely opportunity in there. And as you were talking, it said the word enterprise, or maybe I said the word enterprise. I was thinking, why is this not something that we offer, and why isn't this something that everyone would offer? We all need this. The biggest struggle for the solopreneur, the guy that's out there doing his own podcast or running his own business, and a podcast is just one of the things that he's got of many. The biggest challenge that we all have is our time. We're pulled in a million different directions, and if we could offer this as a service, that might be a really cool thing. So again, another opportunity for us to maybe have an additional conversation about.
Let's make it happen. We'll talk.
I love that idea. So talk to me just a little bit about what the future you think is, either of podcasting or of Headliner. I'll let you guys take it, and either one of you can take the Headliner approach, and one of you can take the future of podcasting, where that's heading.
Which one do you want to take off?
Oh, jeez. Well, why don't you go, Neil?
Okay, yeah. So let's start with the future of podcasting. I think the medium's amazingly rich. The content is the right kind of place to really explode at this point. I think there's a podcast for everyone. I think the big issue is discovery as a whole. Monetization of podcasting is maturing, but discovery really hasn't. Obviously, I'm very biased because I think we really work in that space. But we believe the future is really bright for podcasters if they can get their podcast in front of the right person at the right time. And that's the fundamental problem we see in the space. But we think that's going to get solved in the next few years. And so I think audio has always kind of been a second-class citizen on the internet. But we think that's going to probably change over the next few years. So when you're reading an article about, whatever the latest, caucus
Right.
caucus voting is or political scandal or whatnot, there's dozens of podcasts that have commentary and perspective around that. There's no reason why in today's world with AirPods on, I paused there because I always call them earbuds, which is like a dog in a movie. But AirPods in, and we're always connected via audio at this point. There's no reason why you can't get some extra audio commentary. And so we think that they'll just become much more portable and available, and which will just kind of keep this kind of virtuous cycle going of really amazing content getting created and then getting consumed. And so that's kind of the future of podcasting, in my view. And then future of Headliner actually aligns kind of with that mission. So right now we help people create these, and you actually touched nicely on the automation feature, which is really trying to get that to the next level. So every time you publish content, you don't have to manually go create this content. You can adjust it or change it, but you're not starting from, point zero of like, here's my audio and doing all this work. We've tried to take the work out of it and save that time. So kind of the next evolution beyond the automation is we think we can do this for the entire podcast directory, and make that available around the internet automatically.
Wow. So the idea about going to a player or, a major shapeshifter in the game, going to somebody like Overcast or even Apple at some point and saying, hey, this is, or who knows if Apple has created their own set of this, but the idea behind it is going to a player and saying to them, hey, wouldn't you love this as a value add to have everyone want to go over to Stitcher or to Overcast or to Pandora or to Spotify and be able to use this service enterprise-wide, the entire collection. And, we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of podcast episodes that are out there. I would assume that would be a huge home run for your company.
Yeah, no, that would be huge for sure. And then we actually kind of created a concept site. It's called Headlinerflix.com. And it's kind of like a mashup of our automation technology and Netflix. And so it kind of gives you an idea of like, we're all used to browsing through podcasts, not really being able to easily listen to them. But this replaces that with little previews of every episode that you can just hover over and listen and watch. And so it's just a slightly different but pretty powerful way to discover new stuff. And then, if you check that out, Headlinerflix.com, it's gotten pretty good response, and I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Excellent.
it's worth a look. We see that as kind of the future of podcast discovery and kind of consumption. I mean, the hardest thing from a listener perspective is finding the next podcast to listen to or the right one for what you're thinking. And search is useful, but a lot of times you don't even have the time to search. And there's so much great content. It could be there for you. And really what we've just done is all these kind of clips that are getting made on Headliner is they're just previews of people's podcasts, right? And so again, going back to audio being the best medium to market yourself, being able to just listen to a podcast for a few seconds is exponentially better than reading some description or looking at static cover art. And that's kind of what we believe.
I mean, that happens to me all the time. I read about some, podcast that sounds great on paper, but then when you listen to it, it just doesn't quite fit what I want to listen to, right? I think
Right.
everyone listening to this has probably had that experience where they get excited about something and then realize they just don't like the way the host talks or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure I've been the victim of that many times, but I'm also sure I've been the benefactor of that too. Or
Yeah.
somebody says, "Hey, I want content that's done in a no bullshit way," and it sounds like, although Doug probably isn't who's the host of the Daily, Michael Barbaro. I'm no Michael Barbaro or Barbaro, but I'm different. And that the cool thing about it is some people tune in because they will come for the guest, but they will stay for the host. And
Yep.
it is interesting that you say that. I love the idea of the Headlinerflix, and I'll put a link in the show notes for that as well. Guys, I so very much appreciate Neil and Oliver. I so appreciate your time today and sharing this Headliner program with us, and again the app with us. And if again, Nice Guy Community and Turnkey Podcast Community, the app is really simple to get to. It's just headliner.app, so headliner.app. We'll put a link in the show notes. And guys, thanks for sharing your message and your product with me, and so very much appreciate where you're heading with this too.
Awesome. Thanks for having us. And for all, for your audience and so on, please feel free to reach out, give us the feedback. Back to our earlier points, we welcome it and want it.
Do we get them an offer code?
Oh yeah. We'll make sure to get you your audience an offer code for free. Even though our free tier is very generous, we're happy to extend Pro for free for your audience for some time, so they can have all the additional features in case they want.
That is awesome. And we'll put that link in the show notes too. So again, Nice Guy and Turnkey Community, head over to the show notes. You can pick out the offer code that'll be right there, and the link to headliner.app is right there in as well. So Nice Guy Community, never underestimate the power of nice. Again, special thanks to both Neil and Oliver for being on the show, and thank you for creating such a great product. Love using it myself. I'm going to continue using it. I hope it doesn't disappear. Don't take it away from me, please, guys. I've now gotten used to it. I love using it. So thanks for being here. And again, Steve O'Brien, take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. And may the force be with them. They need all the help they can get.